Welcome to Murfreesboro Storytellers. We're pleased to have as our guest for the program today the newly elected Mayor Shane McFarland for the city of Murfreesboro. Mayor, welcome and congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
It's got to be an exciting experience for you.
It has been. This first 45 days has been a whirlwind, coming into office and really, you know, the meetings, a lot of people have wanted to meet just to get ideas on where we're going and what direction that I would like to see things. So it's been a busy 45 days. And
you've been serving on the city council. How many terms have you been there?
2 terms. So I was elected in 2006. And I tell you, that is the one thing I can say, and to give so much credit to Mayor Bragg. Coming in, you know, I have a good idea of how the departments function and how the city functions. And when Mayor Bragg came into office in 2002, he had not served on the city council. And so I can only imagine what it was like coming in and not have had that experience. So, and you see how well he did. So that definitely has helped out.
So you sort of have a running start on the whole program then.
It did. It helped because, you know, I joke, I was elected on April 15th. And then sworn into office on May 1st, and I say that they swear you in that quick because they don't want you to change your mind. Right. And as soon as May 1st rolls around, we immediately start into our budget. So you really, there's no rest for the weary. As soon as you are put into office, you immediately start moving into action.
That's correct. You come in at a very critical time during the city's year.
It is. You know, this year had a $128 million budget, and I think we got our budget packet the week after I went into office, and luckily, having the experience of going through 8 budgets before, that helped a lot to be able to go through. So it's definitely been a whirlwind, and it's definitely been something that you know, you want to make sure and keep your pace. I always tell my kids, I said, boys, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and so we're making sure that we're continuing to push along.
Other than the council, then you've also held another elective office in your career, I believe.
I have. I was student body president or SGA president at MTSU back a long time ago. So that the scale of this job and the scale of that job are immensely different. But it was you know, I think all of that you look at it and feel like that you were being prepared for something, and that's where I think it led to.
And MTSU brought you to Murfreesboro?
Did. Moved here in 1992, and we were talking. You know, I have a twin brother, and it's funny that Sean had accepted to MTSU, to come to MTSU, and I had accepted to go to Tennessee Tech, and changed my mind about 4 weeks before school started and switched to MTSU. So we both came here in '92, and Sean left in '96 and went to UT Memphis for pharmacy school, and then I graduated in '97 with my accounting degree.
And Sean is with the Alvin C. York VA Medical Center.
He is, yeah. We both, it's funny, you know, being twins, we went different directions after school, and both ended, he came back to Murfreesboro. We live about 1.5 miles from one another, so we regularly will meet at a half point when we run or ride bikes or whatever. So.
You mentioned the budget, Mayor, and that's one of the biggest, I guess, efforts that you have as mayor and councilman any year is establishing and voting for and approving a budget.
It is, and really I think since Mr. Lyons has come into office as well, we really have used that budget not just as looking at figures, we've used that to look at benchmarks and goals on where we want as a council to see the city head in the next year, and even really the next many years, because we're voting on our capital improvement projects. So when we look at that, that's the one time of the year as a council that we can start looking at which direction the departments are going to make sure that we feel like that's the right direction for the city to head. And so we are going through. We've passed first reading, and so we've had our public hearing, and we're moving forward with 2 more readings.
And the city budget that's under approval is being proposed without a tax increase, I understand.
Correct. I want to say we're on our 15th or 16th year without a property tax increase.
That's remarkable.
It is, and I think that goes back not just to, it would be easy for the council to say, yeah, that's we've done that, but it's really, I think we're a small part of it. We have city staff that are really fiscally responsible with our dollars that we spend on a yearly basis, and also the city has made we've made the decision that we don't rely on property tax for our sole source of income. You know, our sales tax, this is really the first year that I've seen where the sales tax has grown almost to the same number that we have on property tax. So, you know, the tourism, the commercial development, all those things that we have, that helps supplement our budget to keep our property tax rate low.
So that's great. And I presume most of our listeners realize that we have a city manager type of government, as you already alluded to, and the mayor's position is theoretically a part-time position.
It is, and Mr. Lyons will quickly tell you, you know, because I refer to it as a city manager form of government, and he's like, no, Shane, it's a council city manager form of government. But that's correct. The city council and the mayor, we technically only have 4 people who work for us. Okay. We have the city manager, who runs the day-to-day operations, who does hiring, who does firing, who does all of that. And then we have the city recorder, which is Miss Melissa Wright, who does a phenomenal job. Judge Ewing Sellers, Judge Sellers is also a part-time position with our judge, and he mainly hears traffic citations or traffic violations and also property violations, and then the city attorney. So those are the 4, Miss Susan McGann, those are the 4 people who directly work for the city council.
Any significant changes, improvements, or additions to the coming budget for the next year?
Yeah, we had several things that I think were significant in the budget. We're bringing on some new police officers. We're bringing on some new staff members to help, you know, our customer service piece, and that's something as a city that we really have focused on, is to make sure that our residents are treated as customers, and that you know, we can't tell people, hey, if you don't like it, go get your water somewhere else, because you know, we are in many instances a monopoly on what we do, and so we really have focused on making sure that we provide good customer service. We've got several new projects that were road projects that are coming along that we've put emphasis and put focus on. Several new parks and recreation projects, one being the tennis facility that we're working on in conjunction with MTSU and Christy Houston. So lots of exciting things that are in the budget this year.
You mentioned with MTSU, the city government has had a real fine partnership with MTSU over the years. We
have, and it would be tough for us to say that Murfreesboro has not made it where we are as a city without MTSU. You look at the growth that MTSU has, and that coincides with the growth of Murfreesboro. So, you know, I said this when the many times that I've run my different campaigns, so MTSU goes, so Murfreesboro goes. And, you know, we're a cap and gown town, and there's so many people that come in here because of MTSU, and there's so many people like myself that come to MTSU that love Murfreesboro that stay here. Right. So, you know, I'll always be a supporter of MTSU. We've done that by helping with the science building. We've done that with the partnership on many, many different projects. We're getting ready to start the Middle Tennessee Boulevard project that will be redoing Middle Tennessee Boulevard from Main Street all the way to Greenland Drive. Do you have a timetable on that? I wish it were done yesterday. I wish it was like I Dream a Genie and we could click and say that it's done. But one of the first meetings I had when I was elected, Mr. Lyons and I went and met with Dr. McPhee. Good. And that project has been slowed through some different right-of-way acquisitions, but we're looking, from the last numbers I've heard, we're starting this fall. And that project is so tough because you're trying to have it when it least impacts MTSU, and you have football during the fall. Oh, yeah. you have basketball in the winter. So a lot of things that we're trying to juggle around. We have the bridge over Broad, I guess, is one of the biggest projects going on in our community. Really, I think one of the biggest projects that has come into Murfreesboro, and that's been a long time in the making. So now, you know, I was on WGNS yesterday and had several different questions on road projects, and that project was one of them, and it's a long project. You know, it's going to be 3 years. The project itself, we're doing the on-ramps, the off-ramps, the traffic controls now, and then actually the bridge will be the last thing that's built. So it's coming along, and we're going to be excited when it's finished. And how about the bridge on Joe Jackson Parkway? The bridge on Joe Jackson, that's actually going to be the largest bridge in Murfreesboro. I guess, yes. But that's coming along well. I think they're scheduled for in-year mid next year completion. That's going to be a really, really big connector now that will almost have a loop that goes around the entire city.
All of this is a part of the phenomenal growth that Murfreesboro and Rutherford County have enjoyed for a number of years.
It is. And you know, you look at not just the growth that Rutherford County has had, but you look at the growth that really the Nashville MSA has had, and we're a recipient of that growth. And you know, Nashville being named the new IT city in the country, and all the companies and people that are locating to Nashville, they drive and look at the surrounding areas, and people drive down to Murfreesboro and see how great this place is, and a lot of people want to stay.
That's wonderful. What about the new police headquarters building? That's in the making for this next year, I presume.
It is, and I think that's one of the most exciting projects that we're going to have coming up. It's going to be a 2-year process. We bought what we're talking about, for those who don't know, we bought the old Murfreesboro Medical Clinic that was on Highland Avenue. It's a 150,000 square foot building that was vacant, and it gave us a great opportunity. And we talked before we started, my office is in downtown, and there's so many businesses that are located in downtown, and we as a city have made a commitment that we're not going to forget about our downtown area. Sure. And with the hospital relocating, you know, 2 or 3 years ago from Highland and Bell Street over to Medical Center Parkway, this gives us the opportunity, in conjunction with our Manny Avenue plan, to be able to make sure we keep that area stable. And so we bought the building in December. We now have the architects that all they do are police buildings. It's funny, one of the architects is his dad was Mr. Kennan, who the Sports Hall of Fame is named after, over at MTSU.
Emmett Kennan's son.
Sure is.
Well, wonderful. That's a great connection.
Yeah, he's the architect. So he came and spoke with us and said, you know, I have a special place for Murfreesboro.
Sure.
And so we're going through the engineering, we're going through the design phase, and we're hoping 2 years from now that building will be repurposed and the new home for our police department.
Will there be a police operation in downtown Murfreesboro after it moves, after headquarters moves?
Well, you know, we'll continue to have our precinct that's over on January Street, over in the Franklin Heights area. But everything from our existing building will be moved over to the new building. So that technically will be our downtown headquarters now, and then from there, I think we'll continually try to find ways to be proactive on our policing, where if we need a precinct in different areas, we'll do that. Okay.
We have an excellent fire and rescue department as well that takes care of the city.
We do. An ISO rating of 2, which is one of only 2 departments in the state of Tennessee who has that rating, which ends up saving our residents on their homeowners insurance.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing. I think your Assistant Chief Kay Lawson just came on, and it's easy to remember. I took office May the 1st, and she came on May the 1st, and she's our new Assistant Chief that deals with first response and medical issues. Okay. You know, as our fire department has evolved, 90-some-odd% of the calls that we get are first responder calls. You know, the fire department, when we changed the name 3 years ago from Murfreesboro Fire, it's now Murfreesboro Fire and Rescue, because a big portion of our fire department, they do first response and rescue. Assistant Chief Honeycutt retired a year or so ago, and he was an assistant chief with our fire marshal. He was our head fire marshal. So the council was really interested in moving to what's called BLS, which is Basic Life Services. So when we have a first response situation, our fire, it's a lot of people don't know this. Most of our fire department employees and our firefighters now are paramedics or EMTs.
Which is wonderful.
And really, when we hire people now, one of our requirements is that they're either an EMT or a paramedic. So when they come as a first response to a car accident, for instance, they're able to give basic life services, and that's what we've been working towards. We're almost there, and that's what Assistant Chief Lawson is helping with that process. So now we have one person who's solely over those first response and medical issues.
So on a 911 call, Actually, fire and rescue is the first to the scene, is that correct?
Well, yes, but we are under Rutherford County Emergency Management Services. So when that call comes in, it actually goes to the Rutherford County Dispatch.
Okay.
And then that dispatch determines there whether the fire department is called out or not.
The call center that's in the police department downtown will move also as well, I presume?
Yes, it will. And that's what they're trying to do. They're doing a lot of space planning. This firm specializes in making sure that we anticipate not only where we are right now, but where we may be in 10 years. So a lot of the things that they're doing are space planning in the existing facility and making sure that we have room to grow.
Let's talk about that growth. And where do you see us in 10 years?
Well, you look at the projections and the projections that you see by the year 2025 that Rutherford County is going to be the fourth largest county in the state of Tennessee.
That's just amazing.
So we're looking in the 400,000 to 500,000 resident range, and in turn you look at Murfreesboro that we're projected. Our last census in 2010 we were 110,870 residents, and a figure that we got last week is that we're actually closer to the 120,000 range than we are the 110,000 range. So, 10 years from now, what I end up seeing is that we're going to end up being closer to the 150,000, 160,000 resident number. And, with that, it definitely is going to bring some challenges. But the council made the decision end of last year that we're right at the very start. We're starting a new strategic plan that's going to plan out where Murfreesboro is going to be for the next 20 years. The company that was selected, it's a company named Kinley Keese, and they specialize on comprehensive plans. And so this is going to be something that we're looking at. Major thoroughfare plan, which is our road network system. We're looking at zoning, we're looking at planning, we're looking at water, sewer, infrastructure, all these things that will be put together to really give us an encompassing plan to lead us for the next many years.
Really gives you a lot of challenges, and still amazing that with all the growth, you've been able to do this without a tax increase for so many years.
It has, and I think, it would be easy for us to put our head in the sand and say, okay, no one's going to come to Murfreesboro, the growth is not going to happen, but whether we want it or not, the growth is coming, and it's a product of where we are here in Middle Tennessee. So, I think we've made the commitment that we're going to make sure and plan for it. And Murfreesboro, all in all, I think has done a pretty good job. I mean, you look at our services, and that's what I tell people when they look at what the city does. We provide services. We do trash pickup, police, fire, parks and recreation. We truly provide services. So we have to make sure that the services that we provide, that the quality of life doesn't dip with what we have coming in.
Tell us about schools and education. With growth, that also presents some additional problems on providing the facilities.
It does, and I think we're in, with Dr. Gilbert and the existing school board that we have, I think we're in capable hands. Mm-hmm. We've got Overall Creek that's getting ready to open up for this next calendar school year out on Veterans Parkway mm-hmm. and Moreland Lane. Be the first two-story school that we have in Murfreesboro. They modeled that off of a design that Johnson and Bailey here in Murfreesboro did in Franklin. And really, really nice school. It's on Overall Creek. It's going to be nice. And you look at the test scores, you look at the things that our school system is accomplishing, and the new technology upgrades that the City Council has focused on, and I think we're poised to continue continue moving forward. I will say though, out of any segment that we have, our school systems and our teachers are continually having to deal with evolving change, and that makes it tough on them. So I think it's something that as a city council, and also I think looking at the school board, that we're all committed to making sure that whatever we can do, not only for our teachers, but our end users, our students, sure. and making sure that they're taken care of. And
Common Core is one of those items that gets quite a bit of discussion.
It is. During the campaign, I would have all questions on Common Core, and in a nutshell, I'll tell you, Common Core, you look at that, and I will say, and I think, you know, you've been in the legislature, and, you know, local decisions, I'm a true believer that that local decisions should be made on the local level. And I can't say Common Core, good, bad. The only thing I want to make sure that, you know, and this is not just the city council, this is the state, this is the federal, that we always have that working partnership where we can go to our legislators and say, hey, this is what we're dealing with in Murfreesboro. And Murfreesboro is different than California. Murfreesboro is different than New York. We're different than Florida. We do things different. And this is some of the things that we want to do to make sure that our students are taken care of.
Yeah, one pattern doesn't necessarily fit all.
You know, I agree. And, you know, John, this is, I don't want to sound conceited, but Murfreesboro is a special place.
Oh, I agree with you.
And that's one of the reasons I've enjoyed serving here, that it's a great place to live. And, you know, I think that in most cases that you look at the leaders who've been before us and they've done it right. And it's hard to argue when you have someone telling you need to do this for Murfreesboro, and they don't know they don't know the dynamics of Murfreesboro. So, you know, I think the more that we can make sure that local decisions, whether it be state or federal or state or local, are made on local levels, I think that keeps it to where we know what's happening in our municipality.
How about housing to accommodate all this growth? Are we keeping up with that?
You know, yes and no. I think if you talk to the planning department and you talk to building and codes and you look at the permits that are pulled on a monthly basis, we're at an all-time low in lots developed in Murfreesboro. And a lot of that is a function of where the economy has been and where development has really, on the residential side, has really stopped on large developments. Right. So, but I think it's something that is not necessarily a bad thing. I think that, you know, with less supply, the demand is greater, and so you want to make sure that we don't repeat maybe what happened 5-6 years ago, where you have so much product that's on the market that you end up having that bubble.
As far as commercial development, we have at least 3 new motels or hotels under construction off of Medical Center Parkway.
We do 2 automotive dealerships that are on the west side of 24, 3 hotels. Consistently see new projects that are coming forward, and I think that's something from the commercial side that you look at. How do we, you know, people on the west side of Murfreesboro, on the south side of Murfreesboro, what you're starting to see is that people don't have to drive all the way across town to be able to get goods and services. They can stay in their own corridor. And, you know, I still enjoy, we'll drive through the avenue and look at the license plates, and you see all the people who are coming now. When I was growing up, we would either have to go to Chattanooga or we would have to go to Nashville. And I would remember when I was growing up, we would go to Hickory Hollow Mall at Christmas, and that was a big deal. You know, you would go to Hickory Hollow Mall. Well, now you have people who are in the surrounding counties who come to Murfreesboro now. And the great thing about that, they come here, they spend their sales tax dollars, they frequent our restaurants, they buy gas here, and then they go home, and we don't have to provide services to them.
Don't have to build schools.
That's exactly right.
Well, you're involved in commercial development. That's your profession, correct?
I am. I have a construction company, and we do residential construction and commercial construction, but we do, I tell people, we do all the detailed stuff that no one really wants to mess with. We do a lot of medical. Just got finished with a new Peter D's out on Medical Center Parkway, which is a really detailed project. So we're a small company. We only have there's 4 of us, and so we run a lean operation.
We have a large number of apartments being built here too, I've noticed.
We do, and you know, I'm not going to say anything that people who haven't been watching TV, that's a concern to me. It concerns me that you look 25 years ago, and Hickory Hollow was those apartments were, you know, you look at them and say, wow, that's just nice product. But I'm not worried about where we are right now with the apartments. I'm worried about where we are 20 years from now. And that's a concern. I think it's a concern on you know, where we're going to be, and I think that's something I hope the strategic plan will look at to say, you know, we have relied on saying that we're going to make sure things are market driven, And I agree with that. I don't think it's the role of the city to say, okay, we have too many of this business, we have too many of that business, because that's not what our job is. But at the same time, I do think that when we start looking at different areas that have a predominant concentration of apartments, that we really need to look at that and say, you know, we probably have enough in that area to make sure that, you know, we protect the residents in the area.
What about healthcare? We're so fortunate there, in my estimation.
We are, and you look at Murfreesboro and you try to say what industries are really economic drivers in our community, and I think healthcare is one of those economic drivers. And again, you would hear people say if you were sick, you would have to go to Nashville,
Right.
and
Not
now
anymore.
not anymore. You know, you look at the facilities that we have, and you look at the investment that not only the city has made, but also all of the private industry has made in the medical field, and that's part of a city, is to making sure that the services that we need to provide to our residents, and as mayor, if we see that there's a hole of something that needs to be plugged in, that we go and recruit those people into our community. And I think the medical sector is definitely an asset to the community.
Any industrial prospects on the horizon?
We do. We have, you know, of course, Innovate is locating and moving here, and so that's coming in. We have Schwann that their building is under construction, which is the cosmetics manufacturer, but they're continually had a meeting a week ago this past Monday with the Economic Development Board, and the requests for proposals are still continuing to come in. They're saying they're seeing 2 to 3 a week, and so I think there are some projects that are on the horizon that are looking good, and a lot of those projects, you know, we'll stay involved on the front end to see how we can help. But you know, the nature of those projects, they're pretty secretive. So some of those we won't know who they are until they're ready to sign on the dotted line.
As far as we're talking about the mayor and the council, the structure, there's been quite a bit of discussion about having council districts. Is that still under discussion and consideration?
It is, and I think it's obviously at election time. I think it's something that always comes up about district representation, and you know, I really have stayed pretty firm that I think you have to be careful what you ask for, because you know, district representation, when you have a certain group that's pushing that, and it could be divisive for the community. I think right now we have 6 council members and a mayor, and you know, the argument is, well, you have a certain number of council members that all live in the same area. And I don't disagree with that, but I was talking to a council member the other night, and he was like, you know, Shane, I went knocking on doors over in the Indian Hills neighborhood. And I think, again, as a council member, and something I think you have to lead from example is, as a council member and as mayor, it's customer service. And we have to be able to get out in the areas in this community. So you know, I think that it's something that you're going to see the council, we will study the district representation. But, you know, I've been involved in different municipalities that have district representation. And the thing that I would hate to see is where you have one individual that is almost the end-all be-all in a certain area, and where council members are afraid to be able to disagree with a person in a certain area because of the fear of councilmatic courtesy, as they call it. So that's something that I'm very fearful of. And I also go by the moniker that, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Which I think is a good
And
slogan.
you look where we are, 15, 16 years of no property tax increase, one of the leading school systems in this state, one of the leading economic generators in this state. And I step back and say, are there areas we need to improve? And I would say, yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
But, you know, all in all, a great community to live in. And, you know, I think that's something we continue to look at to say, you know, how do we improve? And I'm not sure that district representation would improve the level of service that our residents are getting.
Well, Mayor Shane McFarland, thank you for being our guest, and we wish you well during your term.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you having me.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.